Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. A deck primer for Maliss following the ban list. Not going to start with the combo line because the combos are still the same, but I will link my previous combo guide in the description below if you're curious. We're starting off with a going second game against actually somewhat of a Fiendsmith World Legacy pile that unfortunately for them seems like they kind of bricked a little bit. So yeah, I think Maliss is still very, very strong in this metagame, even still a tier 1 deck at this point. With a hand like this though, I always hate when I open like White Rabbit and Dormouse as well as like another starter, potentially, because like, what do you want to use your normal summon on? I decided to be a little bit greedy here and go for the normal summon Chessy Cat, but they're going to hit me with an Ash Blossom, so that'll ultimately stop me. That was, I think, very greedy in the grand scheme of things. I should have just gone with either Dormouse or White Rabbit. But you could also make an argument that if it wasn't Ash Blossom, it could have been Imperm or Valor. So it's like, I don't know. I guess to be fair, Valor or Imperm would have also hit the Chessy Cat. That said, in this situation, I have Maliss in the mirror plus Ash Blossom, so I'm still feeling pretty good. But also my opponent has clearly been, on a bricked hand. So there's a lot of times where if my opponent passes without plays, even if they use hand traps to stop mine, I don't feel particularly threatened as long as I have at least 1 or 2 forms of interaction because, well, they're obviously not on a lot right now, and I have the ability to counter whatever they could potentially throw out here. Backup Administrator is the perfect top deck in a scenario like this. Gonna go for Chessy Cat yet again, and they're going to use another Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. This can be expected when you encounter an opponent who doesn't, open with a lot of plays. You'll usually end up finding that they have a lot of hand traps, because, well, if you don't open starters, you probably opened a lot of hand traps. Gonna link off the White Rabbit for the Link Decoder here, and my opponent was getting past priority, so afraid of the back row being maybe an Imperm or something, I decided to go for the Lingaribo here. Going for the backup Ad Ignister and then discarding the Dormouse to add the Wizard. Gonna activate Wizard Ad Ignister here, but they're going to actually chain with a Call by the Grave. A little bit of an issue, as this means the Wizard can no longer revive the Dormouse, and at the moment I no longer have access to a Maliss name. However, in order to gain access to one, I can simply go into Splash Mage. It's worth noting though that this will cut me off from being able to go into Appaloosa, which is kind of what I was going for, hoping to play around a potential like Nibiru in their hand. Again, with the mindset that my opponent didn't really open any starters, so they probably have a ton of different hand traps in hand right now. That said, as soon as I go for the Splash Rage Revive Chessy Cat, they end up conceding. So after looking at my opponent's deck, which is again like kind of a Fiendsmith World Legacy pile, I'm guessing their 3 cards in hand were probably just like, stuff like World Legacy Succession or just other like kind of like brick stuff that didn't let them start or progress in any. But yeah, so we have quite a few going second games actually in this video. Let's go ahead and go into the next one here. Okay, so I don't often get a lot of these, but this is a 1-turn going second replay. My opponent actually conceded to me during their first turn, and I'll show you why. We're up against pure Mitsurugi, by the way. Maxi plus Ash Blossom is a combination you love to see going second here. Now, if we're going to go for pre-prepping, you'll notice I did not chain the Ash Blossom here. I'm going to wait and use it against the Habakiri that they added, because Habakiri is once per duel. So I would much rather negate the once per duel effect than, the pre-prep. Plus, if I Ash pre-prep, they might just have a Habakiri in hand anyway, and the pre-prep could have been Ash bait. Although you do have to be careful when you're Ash baiting in this meta, because you could run into a Droll very easily. We're going to go for Mitsurugi Ritual. Of course, we're going to chain the Maxi here. And they're going to send off Night Sword Serpent plus Kusanagi. Now, I'm not playing Nibiru in this deck in favor of other hand traps, because Nibiru, if you're not searching with Gallant Granite, can feel a little weak in this meta. Not just because a lot of decks can play around it, but Mitsurugi stuff can trigger when tributed, and Nibiru does tribute stuff that's on the field, so you gotta be a little careful with that. Alright, I have a lot of gas in my hand, but I'd really like some more hand traps, ideally, to be able to handle their board state, because, yeah, this Murakumo is kind of scaring me a little bit here. Although here we have the Bestial Magnum Hut. It's worth noting that Bestials are fantastic in this metagame. There's not a ton of decks that are playing them right now, mostly because they're having to make room for other hand traps and engines. But when your opponent goes to tribute their Murakumo, that's a great opportunity to use a bestial monster to banish it and make sure they don't have access to their board wipe or their negate/discard, which is a huge part of playing the Mitsurugi engine. So I'm only playing one Magnum Hunt and one Druiswarm, which I actually just top decked here, but I've actually kind of considered playing a second Druiswarm in Maliss in this metagame. So here they're going to go for Prayers, Tribute, Murakumo to get both effects. So I'm using both Magnum Hut and Druiswarm here to banish both the Murakumo, which would revive itself, as well as the Kusanagi, which would be revived by the Prayers. Now if they want an extra body off Prayers, they'll have to special summon from hand. Plus, of course, again, we're getting rid of the Murakumo, so we don't have to deal with a board wipe/negate. They're going to end up adding and then special summoning Saji, which is totally fine with me. I think they even still had their normal summon, so yeah, that was completely fine with me. Going for the Great Purification. Now they're going to overlay for Gallant Granite. So I'm thinking like, okay, Nib, I'm going to have to make an early Appaloosa here, but no. They actually added Fossil Dyna, which is something you can potentially do in pure Mitsurugi because they combo off without really using their normal summon. You can Gallant Granite for Fossil Dyna and then normal summon that. I will note that this is a little bit risky, right? Because you as the pure Mitsurugi player cannot special summon either. Meaning if you need to Great Purification or you have Fossil Dyna up, you won't get to revive your Mitsurugi monster. Same with like your Murakumo and stuff, so proceed with caution, I will say. However, since they added Fossil Dyna to their hand, I'm going to go ahead and activate March Hare now. That way I can not only special summon it, but also banish a White Rabbit from my hand, and then use that to set up an MTP. Now here they're going to go for the Wosu, which is the sort of kaiju of the pure Mitsurugi deck. I love this card. I think this card is fantastic. It locks them into Reptile special summons, but they're able to get rid of one of my Maliss bodies, which really does not matter to me at all. They go normal summon Fossil Dyna, and then they actually concede. Because of course I have my Bestial monsters up, even with the attack drop from the Habakiri, they're still at 1700 attack, and I can still simply battle over the Fossil Dyna, and then pop off during main phase 2, right? They've given me a ton of draws off Maxi, so even though they have like Great Purification, you know, I'm still good. And because they summoned Wosu, the kaiju monster from the archetype, that's the one card in the archetype that actually does lock them into reptiles. So they weren't able to set up an IP. Of course, they couldn't do that with Fossil Dyna on the field anyway. So had to show this game. Again, it's very rare that I have an opponent concede to me on their first turn. And I don't think I've ever seen somebody go normal summon Fossil Dyna into a concede. But we had both happen here. Good stuff. All right, let's check out the next game. I'm going to show you another short one-turn replay. This is the only going first replay of this duel. I think it's actually a mirror match. I should have looked. I think this was a mirror match, though. But mostly here, I want to show you, like, setting up a board with kind of a weird hand, right? Like, Chessy Cat, Magnum Hut seems kind of like a brick, but of course, with the Magnum Hut and going into Link Decoder, we can go into more plays. I'm sorry, I actually thought this was a different replay I had saved where I opened an even weirder hand. I had a hand where the only monsters I opened were Maxi and March Hare, but I also had a Maliss and the Mirror in my hand, which looks like it's a brick, but what I actually was able to do was go normal summon Maxi, link into Almirage, then go March Hare, banish the Maliss and Mirror in hand to special, link into Splash Mage revive March Hare, and then my opponent conceded, realizing I could go full combo. I think I saved this one because I had a little bit more, like, you know, actions before my opponent conceded. But yeah, Chessy Cat plus Magnum Hut, literally any Maliss name plus Magnum Hut, does still end up being full combo. I think a lot of people know that by this point, though. But here, not only is it full combo, I can even still set up the Appaloosa. Because, you know, as always, if my opponent chose to Nibiru me here, I would still have the Maliss and Underground. And if they don't, I'm still just going to make the Appaloosa anyway. My opponent was actually being passed priority at this point, and I think they did have a Nibiru in hand. Now, I know that also in my last Maliss combo guide, at this point in the combo line, I think I went into Wicked. Which if you want to like really go full combo, you can do, but I think in reality that's a little bit win more, right? To try to set up all of that. I think it ends up being safer most of the time just to go into Appaloosa. And sure enough, after making Appaloosa, my opponent ended up conceding to me. So yeah, I guess there was still some value in showing that replay anyway, excuse me. But let's finish off with one last going second duel. And this final going second game is going to be up against Yubel, which of course got Gates, Beckoning Beast, and Nightmare Throne all back up from 2 to 3. Again, going second, we do like seeing Maxi and Ash Blossom in our opening hand. You know, of course, for Maliss, it can be a little bit rough going second. It tends to be in general. But in this meta, it gets a lot more rough, not only because Maliss has fewer starters, but also you have to consider that, you know, Mitsurugi is around. And you gotta play the Mitsurugi boards a lot of the time, which is certainly far from ideal. Now here, my opponent threw out every Ash bait in the world for me, but I knew to wait. It didn't matter if they were on Yubel or Sprite. If they were on Yubel, I wait for D-Lotus. If they're on Sprite, then I wait for Gigantic to use the Ash Blossom. But yeah, definitely want to use the Maxi, of course, when they go to Special Summon here. Plus, I figured it was more likely to be Yubel since they, you know, just got all their stuff back to 3. I figure there's probably somebody trying that out. Now here they're going to hit me with a Drone Lockbird, which of course means I don't get any more Maxi draws, but that is also going to limit what they can do, but it won't stop them from going into a Fiendsmith line here. Okay, they're going to go for Lacrima, for the Engraver. Pretty standard stuff here. I mean, I already have, you know, combo plays in my hand, so I'm not really too sad about the Maxi getting drolled here, aside from the fact that I would have liked Maxi to just effectively end my opponent's turn. But looking at my hand and knowing what I'm going to be up against, I'm not particularly scared. I was actually a little bit, like, slightly concerned about having to go into an Appaloosa, just because I was a little bit worried about sequencing. Like, of course, I could always go March Hare and Malice in the Mirror to negate an Appaloosa, but I do still have to kind of have a plan for actually making plays at that point. But then I saw them go for Aerial Eater, and I'm like, okay, so if it's not Appaloosa, then what are they doing here? They're going to actually go into Muckraker and revive the Spirit of Yubel, which I was like, that's fine, because you're under Droll and Lockbird. Like, yeah, the Spirit can set the Nightmare Pain, but the Nightmare Pain cannot search, you know, cannot search itself. Or search off its own effect, I should say. So they just end on Phantom Pass, which is so much less scary. Now, here, I'm just the greatest player ever, and top decked in Imperm, so it would have mattered if they didn't on Appaloosa anyway, but yeah, we're gonna just Imperm the Phantom. I'm gonna lead with Allure, see if they have an Ash Blossom, and see if I get anything fun. Get Droll and Signet Binding, which is fine, yeah, it's not bad. Add back the March Hare, activate Signet Binding, I'm gonna pitch the Malice in the Mirror, that way I can banish it from the graveyard with the March Hare. Add and then summon Dormouse, Dormouse F, go for the Malice White Rabbit, setting the GWC. We're going to then link Dormouse off into the Link Decoder. And then go for the March Hare effect, banishing Malice in the Mirror. Malice in the Mirror can banish the Dormouse. I'll just add another March Hare because why not? Dormouse F goes to activate and then summon. And here my opponent's got a Nibiru, which looks really terrifying, but is actually completely fine. It actually just does not matter at all. Yeah, they can summon the Spirit of Yubel as well. This actually just does not matter at all. Because what I can do is I can go into Biru token into Link Spider. Now, I can go for the Ignister summon. Ignister F to add Wizard at Ignister, and then send the March Hare. Wizard at Ignister F in order to special summon the March Hare and itself. Now we can link our 3 bodies into Heartscriptor. And you, I'm sure, know where this is going at this point. We can use the Heartscriptor to banish the Spirit of Yubel, thus avoiding the Nightmare Pain and also not triggering the Spirit of Yubel effect. And now we make Access Code. Access Code activates, banishing the Heartscriptor in order to pop the Nibiru, which causes Heartscriptor to be summoned back with double attack points. And we can just swing in for lethal. We know their card in hand is not a threat. It's not another spirit that will special summon itself. It's a Theme Chronicle, or not Theme Chronicle. It's whatever the Chronicle continuous spell card is. So, alright. There's that game. I should have led with that one. That was a much better game to have led with than the one I did, but oh well, whatever. Anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and go into the deck breakdown. I'll talk about what the build looks like post-ban list. Okay, so here is my post-ban list build for Maliss. Yep, Dormouse, Goldsark, and Underground are all at one. But a lot of people are just playing Allures to kind of compensate for that. And that's greatly assisted by the fact that Backup Administer, while technically not a one-card starter by itself, is a starter when paired with literally any hand trap you can, or anything that you can normal summon. So it's effectively pretty much a one-card combo. You can almost label it that. So if you're counting Backup Administer as a one-card starter, this deck still has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 one-card starters, which is pretty solid. Sidnet mining, I think, actually ends up being very optional. You don't have to just jam 3 of this in your deck. You can see I'm only playing the 1 copy, and even then, I think only the 1 copy is still, like, more than fine. Because, like, you know, for Marchair, for example, like, even if this isn't a 1-card starter, if you open it alongside, like, Backup Administer, that's just full combo. And as I touched on before, I had a game where I opened Maxi, Marchair, and then also Maliss in the Mirror, and yeah, normal summon Maxi, link into Almirage, Marchair, Banish, do Special, link into Splash Mage, revive Marchair, go into Red Ransom. That's still full Maliss combo. So like, even though you don't have as high a number of 1-card starters as other decks in the current meta right now, you still are a very consistent deck overall. And you know, same with like Chessy Cat, for example. Really, if you have a Maliss in name, it's not that hard to find an extender a lot of the time, and then you can still just like pop off from there. Again, I actually think I do want to main deck more Bestial monsters. I can even see a world where I cut Sidnet mining for a second Druid Swarm, because not only is this Druid Swarm an extender to help me make plays, but again, it's really, really good into the Mitsurugi meta right now. So there's definitely a very solid argument to be playing even more Bestial monsters than I am right now. Also, of course, you get to play Dominus Impulse, which is a card that is extremely good in this meta, not just against Mitsurugi, but also against Maliss itself, because I think that Maliss is actually still like just one of the best decks in the meta. Yeah, I kind of wondered if Mitsurugi was going to push it down to tier 2, but really Mitsurugi caused everybody to start maining Joel and Lockbird en masse, which means that people are no longer main decking LANCEA en masse. I could even see a world where people are starting to have to main deck LANCEA again because Maliss ends up becoming prevalent enough that it is worth it. We'll have to see if we end up living in that world, in that meta. But yeah, in a meta where you're so likely to come up against not even just Mitsurugi Raizio, but Mitsurugi in general, like Joel and Lockboard is a huge, huge, you know, hand trap attack target for this metagame. But you know, again, Maliss can play very well under Joel, so it very much likes that we're in that kind of a meta right now. All in all, if you are not interested in Mitsurugi but had Maliss, or you don't want to, you know, spend money / gems on building a new deck, but you still have Maliss, you are still in a very good spot. Maliss is still extremely good in this current meta. But I think that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. And yeah, without further ado, let's just go on into our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.